Welcome in, everyone, for the CBG Podcast. This is the recorded airing. Welcome in, everyone, for the CBG Podcast. This
starting
is
off
the
on a stellar
recorded
note.
airing. Welcome in, everyone. That was a stellar start. Welcome in, everyone, to the recorded airing on May 8th, 2024 CBG Podcast. Glad that you could tune in for today. The topic for today's conversation is going to be strength and weakness. And so let's hit the ground running today. What do I mean by strength and weakness? What I mean is that quite oftentimes in somebody's life, the greatest vulnerabilities and challenges that you are confronted with can provide you with the greatest opportunities for personal growth and resilience to become very adaptable in life and to just exhibit the greatest form of personal strength and feel more empowered. And through that sense of empowerment, by overcoming those obstacles and vulnerabilities in life, not only does it empower you, but it makes you well-equipped, very well-equipped to be a vehicle to serve others. So while someone else is going through something challenging in life, you can be someone to be leaned upon because you have gone through very hard struggles in life and you have overcome those things, okay? The other thing that hits me with the quote, "there is strength and weakness," is really tackling head on the challenges that life provides, really acknowledging those things and not avoiding them, right? We don't in life, whatever sort of adversities that we're confronted with, we don't want to avoid those things. We want to create a game plan in terms of how we plan to overcome them, right? Easier said than done, but we want to create a step-by-step process and not look too far into the distance, but really focus on the short term in terms of how we're going to overcome those obstacles. And I'll get into more of what I mean by that in a little bit. So before we get into everything, just a couple quick items that I wanted to hit on here. First, a disclosure. Commonly, what I do on YouTube, I typically do a lot of live streaming and publish videos on crypto and traditional market TA content. TA content is technical analysis. And I always put disclosures on there that I never am providing financial advice. Well, in this case, I am not providing any professional medical advice or any professional advice whatsoever. I am not licensed in anything. I'm certainly not licensed in anything related to mental health. I am more of somebody, it's YouTube provides you a platform, right? It provides you the opportunity, if you take the time, to share your knowledge and wisdom and life experiences with others. And that's all I'm looking to do here. I'm just looking to have a conversation and to be very vulnerable with you and be very transparent with you in terms of a lot of things I was going through, just like I did 5 months or 4 months ago in January when I came out here and shared with you what was going on in my life with my cancer diagnosis, and hoping to create an educational segment for other people to learn about and to hopefully, even if at some point down the road you can share it with others and it becomes some sort of positive thing in even one person's life, then I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing in life. So it's interesting kind of, actually I should hit on this as well. I know for those of you who are tuning in, this is a much different live stream than I typically do. I kind of have two different audiences, I believe, tuning in here. You have the audience who typically tunes into my crypto TA content, and you have perhaps some people who follow me on Instagram and saw that I shared this on there, and so they're tuning in as well. And so I welcome everybody in. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know you're in the live stream. Would appreciate it. Or not. You can certainly reach out to me if you don't want to afterwards and share your thoughts with me. I would be curious. But it's interesting kind of coming into today's discussion because today's topic is really going to be centered around mental wellness, okay? Mental health, stress, and depression. And I would share with you at the young age of 42 that life's experiences have provided me the opportunity to connect with a lot of different people in life, And one of the things I have learned through the experience of connecting with people of different ethnic origins, different races, different socioeconomic backgrounds, there's a lot of common themes that I've really learned, one of which is the following. What you see on the surface is quite oftentimes not what is lying at the root of what is going on behind the scenes in someone's life. Let's take Instagram, for instance. We see the most beautiful things going on in everyone's life on Instagram, right? If you're walking through life and you believe that Instagram is an accurate depiction of everyone's life, you're literally setting yourself up for disappointment. Women, if you think that every woman's life that she depicts on Instagram is as glorious and wonderful with their man as they make it seem on Instagram, you women are setting yourself up for disappointment in real life. I mean, even if you look at my own Instagram page, I post a lot of positive motivational things on there that I try to share with other people as it relates to fitness, right? But you never would have known, looking at my fitness content, that I was going through a pretty, what I would call a dark time in my life. And I was really struggling behind the scenes, a lot more than even people who were closest to me really realized. I was struggling quite a bit. And so it's interesting really to get to know so many different people and know that there are so many people out there. I feel like in some ways I'm thinking of someone who I've had conversations with in the past, and she would share the same thing with me that I can relate to this person with. I have found myself in a lot of situations throughout life where people, for whatever reason, feel very comfortable with me and they open up and share things, personal things with me. And I have found that their life is just as messy as the next person, right? Life is a very messy thing, and we're all trying to figure it out, right? And I think the quicker that you can get to a point in life where you exercise that degree of humility and you understand that no matter how much financial wealth someone has, no matter the social standing of someone or the public recognition that someone has, or however their life appears on Instagram, I promise you one thing: everyone's life is dysfunctional in some sort of way. In some sort of way, everyone's life is dysfunctional, okay? So the things that were going on in my life and the things that I still struggle with are not so different from other people. And I think the quicker that you can realize that, the more you feel less isolated and the more you feel like, hey, you know, this is something that a lot of people go through to some degree, right? So one of the things you can do if you are appreciating the content, if something about it is resonating with you, if you're just appreciating the messaging, unfortunately, the overlords of YouTube do rate my content based on the engagement. So if you can just hide the comments and hit the thumbs up button, it's going to help the algorithm out quite a bit, all right? Else YouTube, if I don't get a lot of likes, looks at the video and says, this is not a good video and we're not going to share it with other people, right? So if you think this is a message, as we're kind of going along here, that would be well received by a lot of other people worldwide, feel free to hit that thumbs up button. Okay, so I think something that would be helpful to share with you before I start going into specifically what I was struggling with is to give you a little bit of a background personally on who I am, just a quick snapshot, okay? Because again, most people who are tuning in right now, you don't know me on a very personal level. You don't. You either see me on YouTube or you see me in the gym grunting out back squats like I was doing this morning, right? That's who you know me to be, right? So just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of who I am as a person, I've been working in the actuarial space for 20 years. Come June, it'll be 20 years. Graduated college in May of 2024. Became a credentialed actuary. I'm looking at this on the wall here. In 2008, I became an ASA, eventually got my FSA, but I've been in the actuarial field for 20 years. I've had a lot of different managers over the years. I've gotten along well with everyone in generalities here, gotten along well with everyone, always had really high remarks and performance reviews. Never was in a situation where just things weren't going really well, and never really reported to a manager I ever had an issue with. Always had awesome managers. I've had a lot of managers throughout my years. I was in a rotational program going through actuarial exams. And what that did is it essentially rotated me every 1.5 years roughly into a new job position. And so I had a new manager. So I roughly counted before the podcast, I've had more than 10 managers throughout my career, throughout 20 years. I really want you to think about that. More than 10 managers. And I've always had such an awesome experience, some better than others, but in general, I've always had great experiences. Something else I would share with you about myself, I'm a very hardworking person. I take a lot of pride in what I do. I don't settle for second best. If I'm passionate about something, I put everything that I have behind it and I work my ass off towards it. I've always been a very positive person. Extremely positive person. I can't stand cynicism. I can't stand negativity. I always look at life as providing opportunities, no matter how challenging, to present growth opportunities, to learn from those things and move forward. In relationships, I'm not a flight person. I'm a fight person. If I love someone, if I'm in love with someone, I will do everything and anything I can to try to make that relationship work and really and completely invested in it. That's just who I am as a person. The point of what I'm trying to say here is that I am someone who, as many faults as I have, I consider myself to have a high degree of integrity, who works hard, puts a lot behind what he does, and is a positive person, man. Positive person. I'll never forget, my parents told me, my grandparents, I wasn't as close to my grandparents on my dad's side. I was more on my mom's side. But on my dad's side, my grandfather, some of these, I'm also a very emotional person, so I can't think about these things too much or I will get emotional. Fun fact. My grandfather on my dad's side nicknamed me Happy because as a child, I was always smiling. I was always very happy. That's just the way I am. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're tuning in, I see at least one person here. A lot of people who know me in the gym know that to be who I am. I try to, as serious as I am and as grunting and groaning and doing shit in the gym and working hard, I'm always trying to crack a joke, right? I'm trying to put a smile on somebody's face. And I get a lot of energy from being in the gym. So that is a snapshot of who I am as a person. Okay, so let's kind of get into what transpired in my life specifically, and then let's also talk about what I did specifically to help turn those things around in a positive direction. So the way I would start the story is beginning right before my thyroid surgery, right? If you guys saw that January video, of course I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, about the worst of the types you could get, where I had to have the whole thing removed and it spread to my neck and I had to get all these lymph nodes removed. It was not a great situation, okay? So right before my surgery on November 6th, in October, I had a really challenging experience with my manager. It was very uncomfortable experience with my manager. One where, and some of the specifics I'm not going to get into. But what you need to know is it was so uncomfortable, I felt so taken back that I felt like I was pressed in a corner and I had no way to defend myself. And I was just caught very off guard. And I was thinking to myself, man, I've been in this field, I just shared with you, I've been in this field 20 years. And I've never had an experience like this before. I always had a challenging relationship with my manager. I was at this organization. We'll get into the past tense was, because I recently have left the organization. I was in the organization. I joined in February of 2023, and I left an awesome company culture, incredible company culture, best company culture I was ever a part of. Loved the people I worked with, and I stepped into a company culture that was sort of ruled. I felt like dominated by one person I reported to, who I eventually viewed as a tyrant. And I'm not being dramatic with the use of the term. Someone who is very there are strong personalities and very direct ways of managing. As a manager, I've been a manager for years. I do tend to manage in a more direct style, which can be a very positive thing because it creates open lines of communication with transparent and clear goals and the standards for success. I think managing in a direct, providing positive feedback, providing opportunities for improvement, all that stuff. I believe managing in a direct style can be very advantageous for your reports and the team and fostering a team environment. However, when taken to there's a line with it. When you take it too far, what can happen is you can manage in an abrasive style, a style that seems to be demeaning others, okay? So essentially what I'm aiming to communicate to you is right before my surgery, right before an extremely challenging time in my life, I was confronted by a situation with my manager where I felt he was being extremely abrasive, he was being very demeaning, and he was cutting at the very fabric of who I was in an individual and almost threatening my integrity. And I just didn't know how to respond to it. And I also, again, was undergoing a surgery that was so serious, and I just didn't know how to respond to it. So let's fast forward here. I had my surgery. I shared with you in the video that I had some health complications with that surgery. And during this time, again, more interactions with my manager where it was very, he was just very abrasive. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, always had video calls with this person, always could see the look on his face and what he was saying and how he was saying it. And so these things progressed. I don't want to go over every for instance, but essentially the place I was at in life was I now was at a point where I was dealing with a very serious medical condition, health complications with the medical condition. And I'm also, and this is a really important point, I'm trying to get on the right dosage of thyroid replacement medication. Because without being on the right dosage of thyroid replacement medication, all of your hormones are off. All of them, okay? Your metabolism, your testosterone, everything. So your mood is completely impacted by everything that's already going on. And now what's happening is I'm already challenged behind the scenes of trying to gain semblance of who I am as a fucking person, which is challenging enough. And so when you're confronted with something in your body that is literally a chemical imbalance that you have no control over, okay? And I have so much empathy now for people, where if I didn't realize it before, I certainly realize it now. If you literally have some form of a chemical imbalance, it is outside of your control. There is nothing you can do for it outside of being put on the right medication. I can't stress that enough. Inside, I did not feel like the person that I knew before my surgery. So considering that struggle in life, what I would have hoped to receive was empathy and compassion from those who were closest around me, one of which would have been the person I directly reported to for many hours throughout the day. I did not receive that. So now I had a lot of stress coming down on me from work, and it was just stress and stress. I didn't get, for the first time in 20 years, I did not get a good yearly performance review. First time in 20 years, I did not get a good yearly performance review. Now, I did defend that yearly performance review and spoke to why, I don't agree with this, and here's my views on this. I do agree with this, but I don't agree with it. It didn't matter at the end of the day. This is a man who he has it set in stone. He has his agenda moving on. All right. So I had the stress of not getting a good performance review. You can read between the lines there. I have a chemical imbalance within everything going on in my body. I don't feel like myself. No matter what sort of image I may have portrayed in the gym, you have no idea how much energy it took to get to that level, to get in there and be like that. I just was not myself. And now the stress is coming down on me from work, right? The other thing that was weighing on me was I decided to seize the opportunity to change my situation by attempting to relieve a ton of stress off my plate by seeking out other job opportunities. And that was not an easy process, okay? I work in a niche field as it is, and one of the things you have to realize about working in the actuarial field is actuaries, when they hire, they're looking for this, and this, right? I have 20 years of experience and about 13 years in group life experience and long-term disability. So if I'm seeking, for example, a position that I feel I would be an awesome fit for, but it requires specifically individual life experience, they'll look at everything on my resume and say, well, you have all this experience and, forget the intangibles. They don't even want to talk about the intangibles, leadership and management skills and all these things. You don't have specific individual life experience. Well, you don't check that box, and so we're moving on. So it was a very frustrating experience, and I felt like I was just never going to find a new job. And I was stuck in this job where, and I want to hit on this here, I literally had days going into meetings with my manager where I felt physically ill before going into those meetings with him. I remember taking days off of work to avoid my manager. You hear what I'm saying? I'm taking vacation days because I can't even stand the sight of this man. Based on my interactions with him, I've lost respect. I don't trust him. I had interactions where he would talk behind someone else's back about somebody else to me. God only knows what he's saying about me to my team members. Okay? I don't trust him. I don't have respect for him. Okay? He certainly is not representatory of a culture you would want in an organization. And unfortunately, the culture within any organization are the business leaders. So even though I felt I'm going to choose my words carefully here and stay calm. I don't think he was a very good business leader. Unfortunately for the company, though, he is representing the culture. So the culture is in part my ex-manager, okay? So I really felt trapped. I just felt completely trapped. To compound things, and we're getting towards the end here. To compound things, I also underwent a very recent medical treatment, and I'll get into this in my 6-month update, educational update on thyroid cancer that I will do later this month. But I recently underwent a medical procedure to confirm that the cancer that was in my thyroid and my lymph nodes here did not spread to other parts of my body, bone, just all sorts of things you don't want to think about, okay? And in order to do that body scan to make sure that I'm okay and that it didn't spread anywhere, I had to go off my thyroid medication I was off of it for 2.5 weeks. Let me just tell you something. Not only was I not on the right thyroid medication, and I already didn't feel like myself, let me just tell you, completely going off the thyroid medication, it was the worst I have ever felt going through this process. Inside, and it's not a laughing matter, inside I felt so hollow. I felt like a hollow individual. I felt void of emotion. This is a man who I would consider myself to be a very, as compared to the average male, I'm a very emotional guy. I just am. You could ask any women I've been in past relationships with, I'm very expressive of my emotions. That's just who I am. I didn't feel positive. I felt extremely depressed, very flat, void of emotion, hollow inside. And I felt so goddamn empty. And now I'm getting full force, like hit by my boss. Like, I want to show you One of the things I like to do when I'm leading a meeting, one of the things I like to do to convey my points to an audience so that it really resonates with them and they walk home kind of understanding the big picture perspective of what I'm saying, I like to create visual aids. So under a normal environment, this is you, right? Okay? So, and I'll make this very accurately appropriate here. Of course, I have spiky hair. Everybody knows I got spiky hair. May need to change the hairstyle at some point. I'm getting older in life, but okay. And here's me. Look, I'm happy. Okay, got those nice green eyes that the girls always compliment me on, and I'm cross-eyed. All right, cross-eyed, but I'm happy. All right, and so you got a little shield around you, right? You got a shield around you. You're a positive, uplifting person. You've been through things in your life. You're mentally strong. You're physically strong. And so when you're hit with adversity, these things bounce off of you. It really doesn't impact you too much. Stress from work, stress from your family, stress from anything, relationships, whatever. Maybe you have a bigger stress situation coming in here and it kind of penetrates, but for the most part, you have a force field around you and you're doing well, right? The way that I felt, okay, when I was going through, when I was at my lowest point, when I was off my thyroid medication and my boss was being nauseating, okay? I was void of a force field. So everything was just hitting me. And I did not have a smile. In fact, I remember telling people I really missed the feeling of smiling. Like I just missed smiling. I felt like I was at a point in life where I wasn't going to get a new job. I was stuck in this situation. My boss was looking for me to get fired. Okay, he was doing everything and anything to create a story of why I wasn't living up to expectations, even though that has not been indicative of my 20-year career. I felt mentally and physically weak to battle that. Okay, I just didn't feel like I had the strength inside to combat that. I felt so weak inside. I really did. And so this was my lowest moment. Lowest moment. I can't stress to you enough how I'm doing better now, but it's even crazy looking back on trying to think about how I felt in those moments. I really felt I felt there was no way out. And I felt trapped and isolated. No matter who was around me, who was closest in my life, who was aiming to offer me support, I still felt isolated and by myself. I felt trapped. I don't know how many times I can repeat these words, but that's how I felt. So the question is, when I was confronted with this situation, and I was very challenged by everything going on, what were the specific steps that I took to slowly get myself out of that, right? So the first thing that helped me when I really was in my, what I would call my darkest hour, when I really felt very depressed and stressed out of my mind, did not feel like, I know I was short with people. I know when people interacted with me, I did not seem like myself. But let me just share with you some things in terms of how I turned it around. So first off, what helped me was having structure in my day. Now, thankfully, the way that I am as a person, and those closest to me will laugh at this, I'm a very structured person. I am a very structured person. So having structure in my life and having things the day-to-day to keep me busy really did help me. It took a lot more effort for me to get up and get into the gym, but it wasn't even just the aspect of physical exercise that helped me. That certainly helped me. But it was also the interaction with people. Believe it or not, if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you know me from the gym that we go to, those brief interactions that I have with you for 30 seconds, they were and are monumentally important to me. Not only because I work remotely and I'm here by myself in my home office, But when you feel isolated and you feel alone, you need, I have enough common sense and self-recognition, it's just hard to do it. You need to be around people. You can't be isolated the entire time. So even just getting out and being around people really, really helped me. Having some structure in my day where I could go out in the middle of the afternoon and take a walk. Listen to some sports radio. I always joke with people, it's the truth. I'm always digesting educational content. I'm always learning about traditional markets and crypto markets. I'm very much into investing and education in that field and trying to help other people out. But I also like taking a break from that stuff and just catching up on 94 WIP and listening to Philly sports radio, right? Going out, clearing my head, maybe even just listening to music and just meditating. These were things, structure that I had in my day that really helped. The other thing that I had to do, which is crazy to say for me because, again, I'm a naturally positive person, I had to work very hard to not lose perspective on life and find the positive in things in life. I would listen to uplifting music. I would focus, I'd watch comedy movies, and I would also focus on past achievements, right? Take, for example, all of the bullshit going on with all this stress that was created at work. I had to remind myself, hey, CBG, you got your FSA, you've been in the field for 20 years, you've been a senior managing actuary, you've helped to foster the development of students, you've had great relationships with your managers, you've always had yearly and quarterly performance reviews that met or exceeded expectations. You're not going to allow this asshole to degrade your morale. It felt dirty, it felt bad, it felt horrible to have someone interact with me the way that he had. But I wasn't going to allow that to define who I was in the professional world or even on a personal level, because I took a lot of it personally. I'm not going to allow that to affect me professionally and personally moving forward. I have forged 20 years of my life that say all of this, and this asshole who is about this much of my career is telling me something very different. What the hell is going on here? Is it me or is it you, or what's going on here? Either way, I'm not going to allow that to impact my confidence and my morale. Okay, but I had to work very hard at that, cognizantly work on that, and really draw. I speak to this a lot of times, guys, that when you have personal achievements in life, right, no one can take those things away from you. And quite oftentimes, the successes you have in life, it can be like a snowball rolling down a hill that's gaining momentum. At times in life, when you're challenged by adversity, you can draw on those positive times and say, look, man, I've been through this, I've gotten through it, I'll get through this time. Hey, I achieved this in life, I know I can do it this time, right? So that was very, very important. But let me tell you, especially when you have a chemical imbalance, can't stress that enough, it is a lot harder. Okay, it's a lot easier said than done. It's very, very difficult. The other thing I did is I turned to God, and we're not going to turn the podcast into a faith-based podcast, but if I didn't talk about this, I would be being very insincere and not genuine. I am Protestant, okay? And so a large part of me getting through what I was going through was turning to God through prayer. They say that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And I remember at times praying to God, and I also asked others to pray for me for certain things, but I remember praying to God and saying, man, if this saying is true and you're telling me that you're not going to give me anything more than I can handle, then I am at my limit. I remember saying this, praying about this in March, right before everything started to turn, actually. But I remember praying him and saying, look, you know what I can handle and can't handle. You know I'm at my limit. I literally feel like I am at my limit right now. I felt like I was clinging on to who I was, trying to hold things together, trying not to have a mental breakdown, like really fucking trying. And just saying, like, if you're out there and this is true and you're listening to me, which I know you are, this shit's got to turn at some point. Like, please, something has to change here. I was trying so hard to find another job. So hard. And I was also trying so hard not to be a negative person or not to be a person. It was just so hard when you have a chemical imbalance and then you have all these external forces coming down on you like this. It's so difficult, right? But I absolutely turned to God. That was a big thing for me. I had to open up to people I was close with. Most of the people I opened up to were immediate family members. And I'm going to hit on something related here, but I had enough awareness to know that when you're going through something where you literally feel like you feel like you're about as close to breaking down and just caving in and saying, like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I feel so weak inside. You do need to some degree you need to open up to other people. You can't keep this bottled up inside. You cannot. You have to turn to others, and you have to trust that if you open up to others and you're really putting it all on the line and sharing what you're going to share with them, that it's going to be well received, right? That hopefully you've surrounded yourself with the right close people, that when they hear what you're sharing with them, they're going to be a really good listener and they're going to be empathetic, right? I would hope that I would be that way for someone. And so that's all you can hope for, but you cannot do this shit alone. You can't. People were made to have relationships with other people. Whatever that relationship is, God did not create us in the sense that we were supposed to just be isolated and by ourselves. That's nonsense. We were meant to have relationships with other people. So it would make sense that if we're all faulty, we're all human, we all have our weaknesses and go through really challenging times in a messy world, that you have to rely on other people at different points. The other thing I would share with you, and this is a really important fact to share with you if you're going through something really difficult, because I know I struggled with this. You can't feel guilty about needing space. Okay? I needed my space. I did not want to open up to everyone and share what was going on, right? In fact, I got really sick and tired of trying to explain to everyone that outside of the monumental stress going on in my life at work that I was not used to in 20 years, it was hard enough dealing with that. Brand new stress to me. The chemical imbalance, especially being off my medication for those 2.5 weeks, I did not feel like explaining to everyone, hey, I'm on medication and inside I'm not myself and I feel depressed and I feel flat and I feel kind of like it's too much. Like, I did not want to have to explain that, and that's okay. Like, you need to have some self-care. Like, in those moments, you need to do what you need to do for yourself, right? And if people in your life are good friends, you have a good girlfriend or a good fiance or wife or spouse, whatever, they're going to understand that. They're going to give you your fucking space. They're not going to necessarily be able to 100% relate to what you're going through, but they're going to be a good active listener. They're going to be empathetic, and they're just going to give you your space. That is what they're going to do. You shouldn't have to explain yourself to everyone, right? But you need to understand that. That was a tough one for me. I already hit on that. Yeah, and the other thing I would hit on, specific things I did to get myself out of this situation. Look, I realized that a big stress on my plate was my job. If I could change my career situation, that would relieve a ton of stress on my plate. Because again, it's enough dealing with the medication and getting that right? And it was enough being off my meds for 2.5 weeks. I felt like a robot, okay? I was just walking through life, and I was just void of everything, okay? But I needed to change the job situation, so I worked my ass off to find another job. interviews, getting to the third stage of interviews, second stage of interviews, And something else that's important to recognize when you're going through that interview process or you're going through these steps to try to turn things around for yourself and get yourself in a better frame of mind, you have to celebrate the small victories. You do. So when I was interviewing, for example, the job that I accepted recently, which I'm extremely excited about, it's a great leadership opportunity, seem like very great people, small company. When I made it to the second stage of the interview process, it was a small victory, like a little golf clap, Like I'm not getting ahead of myself here, but with all the bullshit going on, I started to see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Getting away from all the misery that was at work, right? Then I made it to the final stage of the interview process. Look, CBG, just don't fuck this up, man. This is all on you. You exude under pressure. You got this. I would give myself like some pep talks and I would celebrate those little victories. That sort of stuff is very, very important. It really is. And it helped to kind of get me through that opportunity. But the thing that was important for me also that I would think about is, that expression, you want to get that monkey off your back? That's not really the appropriate expression to use in this, for instance. I needed to get the leech that was my boss off my back. A leech is something that connects itself to you and it drains your blood, right? I felt like my boss was a leech on my back and I couldn't get off. He was draining my very soul. That's how it felt, okay? And I needed to get that fucker off my back. I just wanted to turn around, fucking grab that fucking thing and just throw it out, right? And so that was a lot of motivation as well, all right? So with that being said, real quick, there were a few key messages I wanted to hit on before we ended this live stream, but I at least wanted to give acknowledgement to who is in the comments right now. So I see Donkey is here, Oof is here, always good to see you, my friends. Dana, very nice to see you. Kayleen is in the house. Todd, welcome in. Todd is listening while he's driving. I commonly do that while I'm doing podcasts as well. I'm listening to podcasts all the time and I listen. I don't need to necessarily watch. I am going in video mode today, but typically for the CBG podcast, I do audio only. Glad you clarified that, Donkey. No homo. Much love and respect, my friend. Thank you. It is okay not to feel like yourself sometimes. This was pretty dramatic, though, for me, because, again, I can't emphasize enough. This wasn't something small. This was something, the medication is still something I'm working through, right? Everything is not where it needs to be, but we're getting there. But the amount of stress that I was under is, I would always keep perspective too. Something else I would share with you is in the grand scheme of things, when I tried to keep perspective on life. That's something else I should acknowledge here that really helped me. I tried to keep perspective on life and I thought to myself, is this really how I want to live my life? Like, I could even be going through something monumentally positive in my life. And do I really want to go to work every single day feeling nauseous? And feeling like I have no energy, I have no respect and no trust to who I work for, and I have no joy in what I'm doing. Now, that's not to say there weren't people at my former company who I didn't enjoy working with. I did. I've met some great people there. I have, okay? But my boss made it intolerable, and I'm thinking to myself, man, you just got diagnosed. Like, if there's anything that gives you perspective on life and really makes you think about how finite life is, get a cancer diagnosis, okay? I think at a lot of different points when I was diagnosed with that, I really didn't think about it too much. That's kind of what helped me get through, right? I didn't really think about the seriousness of it. But when you really think about it, and you think about getting diagnosed with a cancer, and I'm still waiting for the body scan results, which I'm going to get in a week, but you think about the possibility of having something in your body you have, and I've done all the research. There was nothing I could have done to prevent this. Completely genetic, nothing I could have done. I take such good care of myself and don't do anything anything questionable whatsoever. So I have something I've been diagnosed with that is threatening my life expectancy, to use an actuarial term, right? And it makes you realize, man, like I'm 42, I may have already lived half my life. And this is how I want to spend my life? Like, really? Life is so goddamn short, and I'm going to spend it with this asshole at work, with the shit, dealing with his stress and anxiety and his tyrant way of managing, demeaning, and no, fuck no. Like, life is way too short. I was at the point, to be honest with you, I was heavily considering going to my provider and getting a leave for FMLA. Just taking some unpaid leave from work. FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, is not a program that, if you can look it up for what it is, but it's actually not in the state of Florida as a mandatory insurance product. So what I would do is I would have gone under the federal program, and I would have taken unpaid leave, which my financial situation thankfully is perfectly fine. So I could have taken unpaid leave for 3 months. I would have been fine. But I was heavily considering that because I just needed to kind of regroup and get my life together. I mean, it was just a ridiculous situation. But it's just no way to live. It's just no way to live, guys. If you're in a situation in life where you're under a tremendous amount of stress and you feel depressed over things that you do have some form of control over, change it. I provided you my step-by-step process in terms of how I changed my situation. You got to do something to change it. It's no way to live. It'll shorten your life expectancy. The Real SR, incredibly underrated channel. Why, thank you, my friend. It's going to get a little bell icon. God bless you, CBG. Thank you very much. God bless you as well. It was a cross-eyed photo, Dana. You're being way too kind. All right, let's get into a few key messages here that I wanted to end with. I think one of the things, and I think this message actually, I want all the guys, all the men in the live stream to really listen to this in particular, because I think a lot of guys stereotypically think that they can do everything on their own and they can't be expressive of emotions, and there's weakness in being vulnerable and all these things that are just silly. You have to embrace vulnerability. That's one of my first key messages. One of the key things to turning around your mental health from a weakness into a strength, okay, is embracing that vulnerability. In my opinion, it shows courage and it shows an acknowledgement that you're human when you can express vulnerabilities and outwardly embrace the need for help, right? Again, my view in life is that God did not create us as single little beings, that we were meant to live in little log cabins by ourselves and go through life, right? We were meant to have relationships with people, whether it's getting married, which I'm going to go on a tangent here. Whether we're talking about having a partner through life, whether we're talking about friendships, whether we're talking about family, we were meant to have relationships with other people, and those relationships forged over time should essentially help us to create a force field, right? Going back to the force field, right? All that stuff should help us create a fortified force field here that help to shield out some of those stressors in our life. The other thing, and guys, I speak to this all the time, the other key takeaway I would share with you is growth through adversity. How many times have I come out on a podcast and spoken to this? All right? I am the person that has come out and said to you, I think that from a societal perspective, I think at least in this country, from what I've been reading, we're trending in the wrong way. We should not be giving out participation awards at field day in elementary school. We should give out first, second, and third place. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the real fucking world. There's a first place, a second place, and a third place winner. You're not going to win at everything in life, okay? How are you going to confront that adversity? I think one of the worst things for a child in life is to easily go through everything in life. You need to fail an exam. You need to get fourth place when they're giving out first and second, third place ribbons. You need to get fourth place in a race. You need to know what it feels like to not win at something. Okay? How are you going to respond to that? When you're faced with adversity in life, and it is unfair, because life, man, there are so many times, I can just think I'm being very honest with you, I can literally just think of the years 2021, 2022, and 2023. And I could come up with a handful, more than a handful of times where life was so unfair. And it threw me a curveball. And there were situations I was confronted with where it was not easy. It was not easy. It was not an easy situation. And so you have a choice in terms of how you want to respond to those situations. Are you going to curl up in the fetal position? Okay? And play a violin for yourself? Or are you going to fight? Right? Fight or flight, like in a relationship. Fight or flight. What are you going to do? Right? So, and again, I have empathy. I have 100% empathy now that I've been through this, that if you're confronted with something that is a pure chemical imbalance and you need medication, I understand that is outside of your control, and it takes, I can speak to this, it takes so much more goddamn effort to put up a fight, but you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it, else you're giving up on life. Life has way too many beautiful and positive things to offer you, right? For you to just give up, right? No matter how defeated you feel, no matter how, I promise you. Look, I understand you can't put yourself in my shoes. There's no way for you to know how I felt. I'm trying my best to convey it to you in words and facial expressions. I would not be a good poker player. I have no poker face whatsoever. But I promise you, again, coming from someone who's a real positive, inspirational, motivational person, I was as fucking down out of it, depressed, flat, unemotional as you could possibly imagine. Okay? I felt horrible. And I got myself out of it. If I can do it, you can do it. There's no reason you can't. And that gets into the power of mindset, man. You have to, when you're confronted with something where you literally are just feel stressed out of your mind and you feel depressed, you have to work. You have to work towards developing a positive mindset. I don't care if it's watching. I still haven't watched the Tom Brady roast. I need to watch that. I'll make time for that probably tomorrow or Friday. Whether it's watching the Tom Brady roast, whether it's taking a walk and listening to some jazz music like I did the one day, whether it's drawing on getting a little nostalgic and thinking about some positive, fun times in your life, or something that you achieved that got you to where you're at today, you got to draw on the positivity. Because again, it's always about two choices. You should have a support cast around you that's going to help you, but no one's literally just going to pick you up and push you on your way. You got to find the strength to do that yourself. Or again, you can curl up in a fetal position if you choose to, but I don't think that's any way to live life. Seeking help, again, especially for guys, that seems to be a very difficult thing. Again, God made people to help one another, and I didn't even speak on this, but therapy, I'm a huge proponent of therapy. If you need to go see a therapist, I think it can be an extremely positive experience leading to self-growth. One of the things I may have shared with you guys at one point, I was actually married at one point, and the divorce, any divorce, there are some, I guess, that are harder and easier than others, but it was a very challenging time for me emotionally. I went to see a therapist for like a year, and it was a very beneficial experience for me because I was talking to someone one-on-one, and I was hearing a lot of things about myself that I didn't like to hear, but were really good for me from a personal growth perspective that I needed to hear. And that it provided an outlet to share things that I was frustrated about and things that I didn't agree with and things that didn't make sense to me. It was one of the best choices that I could have made because it allowed me to, in a healthy manner, move past my divorce in a very healthy way. Very, very, very healthy way. So therapy can be a great thing when you're seeking help, speaking from personal experience. I think another thing that I spoke to is just focusing on the day-to-day goals, the short-term goals. At the end of the day, you may see this insurmountable mountain. Like, I'm stuck in a dead-end job. I have a boss who is giving me performance reviews that don't make sense. I can't get my medication right. Now I'm off my medication. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like I'm a loving person. I don't feel like I'm an expressive person. I feel like I'm short with people, and you're going back in your mind. You're like, I just want to smile again. I want to be myself. I want to laugh again. I want to be who I was before my surgery. I want to get back up on top of that mountain. And so if you look at that whole thing up there, it's overwhelming. You can't do that. What you have to do is you have to look at those stair steps that are going to get you there, and then you just have to focus just on making those small achievements. And if you focus on the small things that will get you there and really celebrating some of those milestones, before you know it, you really will be at the top of the mountain. And it sounds corny. I know. I mean, honestly, even listening to myself, it does sound a little corny. It really does. But it's the truth, though. It's the honest-to-God truth that if you focus too much on the big picture, you'll lose sight of how achievable it is. That other people have been through just as hard a time as you, if not worse. And there are people out there that got through it. And if they can get through it, why can't you? Why are you so different from that other person? Why can't you get through it? Right? So that's something else to consider. I think also self-compassion, something else I spoke to. Another key takeaway is making sure that you're, at times, it's not selfish. You have to put yourself first. There was a period of time, I'll give you a great example. There was an extended period of time where I was not on the phone with my mom. I just was not. Now, I'm a person who, so I live pretty far away from my mother, and I have weekly conversations with her, right? Typically a weekly conversation. Every time it goes longer than anticipated, my mom will keep the phone call going. As I'm trying to hang up the phone call will last another 20 minutes. So definitely on the phone a minimum of 1 hour. So, but there was an extended period of time there where I was not on the phone and we were just texting because I just didn't have the energy to get on the phone, and I didn't want to talk about my life and what was going on. And what I really respected and appreciated, which was very difficult for my mom's personality style, is she embraced that and she accepted it. And because my mom chose to not necessarily 100% understand exactly how I was feeling, right? But she was an active listener and she was empathetic, which I spoke to earlier. She gave me my space and she allowed me to come to her, and that helped me a lot. It's the same thing when you have a partner in life. If you have a partner in life and you're going through this, you should be going through it together. You shouldn't feel isolated and alone from your partner. Your partner shouldn't be someone who questions what you're going through and says, well, you seem like yourself, and does more talking and telling you why you seem like yourself versus just actively listening to what you're saying, and more so just being empathetic and listening to what you're saying and saying, okay, well, I may not necessarily understand exactly what you're going through, but I hear what you're saying, and tell me what you need from me. Like, what can I do to help you, right? That is such a sign of a loving, strong partner in your life, that if someone literally says to you, what can I do to help support you? What do you need from me? Versus giving you their perception of how you come across, okay? You need someone strong in your life to really be empathetic in a time like this. And make sure the same goes for friends. You shouldn't have to explain yourself to every friend about what's going on. You shouldn't feel the need to do that. If you're surrounded by really good friends and they're being very loving and supporting, you shouldn't have to explain everything that's going on. You can say, hey, here's what's going on in generalities, just not can't really go there right now. A really good friend will say, hey, let me know what you need from me. Let me know if you want to talk about it. I'm here. I totally understand. Just know that I'm here for you. That's the best response that you can give, right? Nothing wrong with following up with people too. But there is a fine line, right? You don't want to be overbearing. And then I already spoke about celebrating small victories, like the steps I had in the interview process. Guys, that's all I had for you. I don't know if you have any comments, but, and this was the reason, again, that I took a hiatus from YouTube. It was just too overbearing for me to, like when I come on YouTube, so when I do my typical live stream and I'm talking about the charts, that for me is not work. That is a hobby. It's an enjoyment, right? It's why at some point in the future, when I am financially independent, I have a lot of aspirations for myself. When I'm sort of more full-time committed to doing chart analysis and market analysis and all these things, nothing about that seems like a job to me. Nothing about it seems like work to me. But in the moment of feeling as depressed as I was and feeling as stressed out as I was, it did feel overbearing. It did feel like work. It just felt like I can't do this right now. I can't do this. I just want to be by myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. There were plenty of times where I just did not want to be around people. I just wanted to be home by myself. Maybe I went out to the gym earlier in the day. I was around people. That was enough for me. Came home. I just want some time to myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you definitely have to have some compassion for yourself. Guys, that's all I had for you this evening. I want to thank you for tuning in. This podcast has gone an hour. I think that's long enough. If you appreciated the content, always remember to give a thumbs up. It will help with the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time. And I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, feel free to share it with at least one person. And just know that, if you are going through something difficult in life, you're not alone. I mean, at some point in your life, you're going to go through something that seems insurmountable. But if you take the right steps and you have the right mindset, you can get through it. No matter what it is, you can get through it. So until next time, everybody, let's all spread awareness and let's carry the education forward. I will be back tomorrow for my regularly scheduled YouTube live stream, All in the Charts. Take care, everybody.